It's a playoff edition of First in Pod. Andrew Fillipponi, Patrick Peterson, Spencer Ray producing. Wildcard weekend, 2 games Saturday, 3 on Sunday, the Monday nighter, and we're going to break it all down here. Subscribe, rate, review. If you've been listening throughout the regular season, you know how this works. We preview every single game. It gets a lot easier now that we are down to the playoff rounds, and that means we can go a little bit more in depth on every matchup. So that's what we aim to do here. Tell everybody, First in Pod, that's what we do. Myself, we got an all-pro player and a guy that's going to be in Canton one day, giving his thoughts and opinions on these games. Pat, I'm not going to go in chronological order because I don't think the most interesting game is Chargers-Texans, so we'll put that on the back burner until we get deeper into the podcast. I think the best game is the Packers and Eagles because last year Green Bay was in the same exact situation. They were a 7 seed. And they were playing the NFC East champs, and they opened up a can of whoop ass on the Cowboys, and they set that whole organization off the rails, and obviously things got a lot worse this year for Dallas. Philly took advantage of that and won the NFC East pretty much going away, even though Washington put up a little bit of a fight. So the question here for Patrick Peterson to start is, will lightning strike twice? Will Green Bay win as the last team in the NFC in back-to-back years?
I do not think lightning will strike twice back-to-back years. Philadelphia, I know they rested their guys against the New York Giants, but their team is, in my opinion, way more equipped. I believe their defense, both defenses have played exceptionally well as far as taking the ball away, pressuring the quarterback. Both teams are very sound tacklers, and they're very well coached on the defensive side of the ball. But I just believe the Eagles' offense is a little bit more potent, in my opinion, than the Green Bay Packers. And now the Green Bay Packers have to go on the road. Yeah, so if they're going into Lincoln Stadium, it's going to be tough for Jordan Love in the game to go in there and try to squeeze out a victory. I just feel like the Eagles are going to continue to play their bully ball. They have a team that's well rested, a team, a well enough veteran team that understands, what it takes to win these playoff games, and also taking advantage of the rest that they end up receiving in week 18, to get ready for this Super Bowl run. So I don't think it will lightning was striking the bottle twice. Picking Philadelphia Eagles to win this matchup, but it will be a competitive matchup as it was in Brazil to open up the season. So I think the Philadelphia Eagles just going to do enough to win their wild card matchup against the Green Bay Packers.
I think if it's really close, the way that you're kind of forecasting the game, I think that benefits Green Bay. And the reason why I say that is because if it plays out the way that you're describing it, where these two teams are close, but the Eagles are just a little bit better, I think in that stadium, I think the pressure is going to go back to Philly in that situation. I know how their fans are wired. I know how they think. I know that Nick Sirianni has seen the reports that if he loses this game, he might actually get fired, even though they finished with the second best, not the second best record, but the second seed here in the NFC. And I think Jalen Hurts feels the heat too because of how things went with A.J. Brown earlier in the season. Even though he took them to a Super Bowl 2 years ago, I just know from having friends in air quotes, because I really don't like anyone from Philadelphia, but I just understand that he still has not won them over based on how he performed in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. So he actually has a lot on the line for their fans. You can debate whether or not their fans should feel that way. I'm just telling you that's the case. So if it's close, Green Bay's maybe frustrating them a little bit defensively. Now A.J. Brown's getting pissed off because he's not getting the ball enough, or he's not a big enough part of the game plan. If it's close, I think Green Bay is actually going to win this game. I don't think it'll be close. I think Philadelphia is going to score close to 40 points in this game, and I think they'll actually pull away a little bit here. You outlined the offense. I think Philadelphia is better at every position, if we compare offensive player to player, their wide receivers are better. Their running back is better. Their offensive line is better than Green Bay's offensive line. The only question, I guess, is how much more do you like Jalen Hurts than Jordan Love? And both guys are coming into this matchup a little bit dinged up, Pat.
Yep.
But for Hurts, he has been in the playoffs a money player in Philly. They went to Tampa. He sucked last year. That team collapsed. But they scored 30-plus points in all 3 of their playoff games in Philadelphia. And I think he's going to do it again. I think he's going to shut a lot of people up. And so I'm going to take Philadelphia to win this game big and move themselves into the next round. I told you I thought Green Bay was a sleeper, but I think this is a tough matchup. You said 34-29, I think was the score when they played in Brazil. In Philadelphia's defense, it was their first game with Vic Fangio, and I don't think their young players were equipped yet or ready yet to really thrive in that defensive scheme.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So we're both, look at us, man. I mean, this is the best matchup, and we're both seeing eye to eye on this. What the heck? No dissenting opinion, no devil's advocate or anything like that, man.
No devil's advocate here. I just feel like the Philadelphia Eagles team is much better. They are, in my opinion, the much more superior team in this matchup.
Who's the better coach?
Who's the better coach? I'm gonna go with LaFleur.
I agree with that. Yeah. I think that's why the close game thing, I think if it's close, he might push a couple more right buttons than Sirianni might in a game like this, Pat.
Yeah, and I was going to go back to your point as well. If it is close, I'm a little nervous there because Philly can't find a way to win those close games, as we saw against Washington. They couldn't close out that game. It was another close game. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. That they couldn't close it because they was on a 10-game winning streak, so it was early on in the year. But it was
the longest winning streak in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And yet their fans, like I said, are not right. I mean, they lost to Tampa early in the season, a very ugly game. This is a must-win for them. Like, some teams are in these playoffs playing with house money. Other teams have huge expectations. And they're one of them. In this Hurts concussion thing, by all accounts, he's going to play. But it is interesting, Pat, that at the time we're having this conversation, he's still in the protocol. And really, the only other thing that makes me a little bit nervous with Philly is he hasn't really gotten practice reps in this offense for like 3 weeks. So they were a bad first quarter offense for the first 10 games of the season where they did not have a first quarter touchdown the entire year. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the potential is actually there for them to get off to kind of a slow start for those reasons.
Yeah, the potential is definitely there for them to start off slow because all the points you just alluded on was him still being in the protocol, and also him not having an opportunity to be out there with his guys, for an extensive amount of time. I know I only had one concussion in my career, so I really don't remember what the steps were. I know you had to go see a neurology, off-site and things like that, but I can't remember how it was as far as looking at things on a screen. So I know he's probably not watching any film for the most part, so it definitely have the potential for them to come out to a slow start. But then again, this may be a good opportunity for them to lean on Saquon Barkley early on, to try to get them going and knock out the dust for Jalen Hurts.
All right, Monday night, Vikings-Rams. Let's do that game next. And obviously, people are thinking about Southern California, the fires there that have raged on. The NFL actually has a contingency plan for this game to move to Arizona if they don't feel like it's safe enough to host an NFL game in LA. So depending on when you're listening to this, a decision might already have been made on what they're doing with this game. It's going to get played on Monday. It's just a matter of where. The Vikings, we talked about this on Sunday's podcast, how badly they played in the second half, how Detroit's defense dialed things up against them, the pressure. Sam Darnold did not have a good game. And Minnesota, Pat, has vowed to respond. That's what the rally cry was from Kevin O'Connell down. They are saying that what they put on tape against Detroit is not who the true Minnesota Vikings are. And they believe that they're going to go to LA and it's not going to be a repeat of what happened earlier in the year when they lost 30-20 in that controversial face mask that went uncalled. And it was a safety and ended up losing the game by 10 when they had the ball down 8 with a chance in theory to tie the game in the fourth quarter. Do you believe in your former team to respond in this game against the team that you predicted would go on a run to make the playoffs, the NFC West champion Los Angeles Rams?
I do have faith in my former team if they're able to change up the game plan. If they come out there with the same game plan and continue to do the things that they have been doing, these long, drawn-out, developing plays, they're going to get smacked in the face again because the Rams were able to do that, take Justin out of the game, get him frustrated a little bit, and pretty much force Sam Darnold to go elsewhere with the ball. Now, remind you, they didn't. I don't believe they had TJ Hockenson in the lineup just yet. So he was down at least one of his A1 pass catchers. So for the most part, I feel like if the Minnesota Vikings come into this game with the same game plan that they've been having from week one and pretty much doing the same things that what their identity is or what they hang their hat on, they're going to get smacked in the mouth again, man. So
O'Connell's got to be smarter than that, right? I mean, the guy, is he going to be stubborn enough where he said, this is what we do and it's going to work? Or do you see him pivoting in this game?
Hey, but man, you know this and you may not know this. Most offensive coordinators, they don't have the patience for that. They just don't. They're going to do what they do. That's what, in my opinion, that's what made Bill Belichick such a winner, in his heyday, because what he did was
their team was different depending on who they were playing.
Exactly. And they just played the game by the numbers, by the statistics, as far as what do the team who we're playing, what do they not do well? And we're going to attack that to the cows come home.
Yeah, they found your weakest link.
And at some point, that level's going to break. And then that's when it's going to be our time to take advantage of it. So as long as we keep ourselves in the game on not turning the ball over, not allowing the opposing team to score when they're in the red zone or string together these long drives, and you're in the game in the fourth quarter, and we all know most games in the NFL are won or lost by a touchdown or possession. Now you're in the game in the fourth quarter, and now you're going to have to put the pressure on the opposing team to end up breaking their tendencies. So that's just one of the things I feel like that the Minnesota Vikings are going to have to do to be able to be more successful on the offensive side of the ball, and also to be able to get Justin in the game as well. Because at the same time, we all know Justin is great, but now we're in the playoffs. Teams know what routes Justin like to do, which is deep overs. If he's at the X receiver, he's pretty 9 times out of 10 running a stop route. A go route. And I don't even have my iPad to really dissect this stuff, but this is just me looking from afar, on TV. So now we have to do something. And when he's in the red zone, he's doing these jerk routes. You know what I mean? So we got to change this up somehow, some way, to where we giving these teams a different look in order to get our playmakers open, in order to give our quarterback some comfortability on getting them in some rhythm throws early, to where now our offensive linemen are a little bit more comfortable. Because when your quarterback get hit early and your offensive lineman is giving up sacks early, man, that confidence level, it starts to dwindle a little bit. You know what I mean? So if we know we had a struggle with that last week, I am not coming out and doing the same things that we've been doing. And that's what hurt, and that is what hurt us in the previous game, because we all know this is a copycat league. So I got to find a way, you know what I mean, to play the spades when my partner's trying to play hearts.
The Lions blitzed a ton. And there's an old saying in basketball that teams that press don't like to be pressed. And their defense is such a blitzing team from all angles. You think that maybe practicing against that, not that it's the game's speed, but they saw it all at training camp. And it was incredible to me how flustered Darnold was when he had been basically pretty composed the entire year. So I think if the Rams,
it's different. And practice, the quarterback knows he's not about to get hit.
You're right. Thank you for calling me out of my bullshit there. If the Rams don't do that, they're stupid. So Chris Shula, if that's not what they're going to do in this game, then something's wrong with them. And to your point, if the Vikings don't come back with some, short, screens and stuff like that to offset that, then, Kevin O'Connell is not this genius coach that he's been made out to be. I agree with you. I think he will have a counterpunch. I think the other thing is the Rams are not a good team as far as teams have not run the ball a ton against them this year, but when they do, they've been effective. They're 26th in yards per carry against. So, Kevin, I know you've got Sam Darnold here and Justin Jefferson, but how about we run the ball a little bit here and keep this Rams defense honest too? Let's not forget about Aaron Jones in this game. And I don't think in Cam Akers looked good, I thought, in the Detroit game. And here's the flip side of that and why I like Minnesota in this game and why I don't think their season's going to end here with a whimper. Matt Stafford is not a mobile quarterback. If that pressure gets to him, I don't think he's going to be effective in this game. This year, when he's been pressured, he has 2 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. From a clean pocket, it's 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. If you're going to blitz, it's got to get home, obviously, right? Because he can pick you apart. But, to me, you got to live by the sword, die by the sword with that philosophy, Pat. I think he's the type of guy where if you can start to hit him and get to him, you're going to win. I think they're going to win the game with their defense.
I don't think so. Nah, Matthews is one of those gunslingers, man. And, I had the pleasure to play against him at least 5 times throughout my career. Man, it don't matter how much pressure you're sending at him. He's going to find a way. He's going to stand in the kitchen, withstand the heat, and continue to deliver, the ball all around the yard.
So what would you do then? Would you because they didn't blitz them really at all in the first game, and they gave up 30 points. So they might have looked at it like you're saying, like, hey, maybe blitzing this guy's not the best idea because he knows where to throw it against the blitz. So they sat back and they ended up getting picked apart that way.
Yeah, I'm with you. You live by the sword, die by the sword, especially now in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So now you saw that sitting back was not the answer. Hell, ain't no tomorrow now. At least it's not promised. So we got to do what we do, which everybody know that we're a pressure team. You might want to throw a couple different pressures in there and maybe, show some simulated pressures and come out of there. But for the most part, you got to live by the sword, die by the sword. So if I'm Brian Flores, I don't expect nothing less from him going into this game, to be quite honest with you. You know what I mean? With him being on a Super Bowl champion team, being under Bill Belichick, in the New England Patriots when they went on their runs back in the late 2000s, in the teens of the 2000s.
So who are you picking here?
Man, that was on my show earlier with B-Mac, I took the Rams. I did. But now thinking about it a little bit more, and we got the fire and everything going on out there in LA, so we're not even sure where they're going to play. Give me the Rams.
Okay, you're sticking with your team. When they beat them, that's when you called for the turnaround, when the Rams beat the Vikings. So you got to double down on that, I guess, and stick to your guns. All right, Broncos and Bills. This is the early game on Sunday. Josh Allen still aiming for that first Super Bowl trip. Is he under the most pressure of any player in the playoffs?
No. No, he has a ton of expectations, upon his shoulders as far as to get his team to the promised land. But it's not a question in my mind that it's Lamar Jackson who has the most pressure on him. throughout in this playoff, just because he's a 2-time MVP winner, and most quarterbacks who won MVPs, they have at least a Super Bowl champion under their belt as well.
He's the only multi-times MVP to not appear in a championship game or Super Bowl.
So that's what I'm saying. So Josh Allen, he's flirted, with being there, but he don't have no MVPs under his belt. So
he's about to have one probably.
Maybe, probably so. But what I'm saying, like right now, he doesn't. You know what I mean? So I feel like he don't have as much pressure as a Lamar Jackson in this league. So no, he don't have the most pressure in this playoff.
Well, the one thing about what you just said, though, is if the seeds hold, it's going to be Bills and Ravens next week. And it's going to be in Buffalo instead of in Baltimore. Mm-hmm. And I think in that situation, more pressure would be on Allen because he'd be at home and his team would be picked to win in that situation.
What is everybody big why on why Lamar Jackson is not on the Mount Rushmore quarterbacks, I guess?
Because he's been bad in the playoffs by and large.
Exactly. Have Josh Allen ever been bad in the playoffs?
He's 5-5.
I mean, but he won more than 2 games in the playoffs.
Correct.
So therefore, like I said, Josh Allen, don't get me wrong, he has pressure on him, but ain't no doubt about it that Lamar Jackson has more pressure on him in this playoff than he does. I get what you're saying that he's home, but I feel like in that situation it doesn't matter.
I agree with you, but I guess I'm trying to make the case that it's probably closer than maybe you're saying or others are saying for this reason. Since the Bills lost that game where Allen had Mahomes beat, and his team blew it with 13 seconds left, Kansas City got the ball in overtime, and Josh never got the ball again, and they lost 42-36. He's played 4 playoff games. He's 2-2 in those games. They beat Miami and Skylar Thompson, your Dolphins, without Tua, and they won the game 34-31, and he threw 2 interceptions. They played Cincinnati at home the next week, Pat. They lost 27-10 at home, 10 points. He didn't throw a touchdown pass and 1 interception. Last year in the playoffs, they played you guys, and they won the Steelers. They won 31-17. He threw 3 touchdowns, 21-30, but only 203 yards. He had a good game. And then the game against Kansas City that they lost, 27-24. He was 26-39 for only 186 yards and 1 touchdown. He had 2 touchdown runs, though. So he's been better than Lamar. But he's been, by no means has he played like an MVP. He's not matching Mahomes, I guess is my point, since that game. So Josh, yeah.
Yeah, he's not matching Mahomes since that point, yeah. But yeah, back to my point again, that's why the pressure is on Lamar Jackson than him, because like you just said, he's probably the 3rd best quarterback record-wise, 3rd or 4th between him and Jared Goff, record-wise in the playoffs. It did everything. Well, I forgot about Russell Wilson. But he's in the middle of the pack in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson probably at the bottom. Well,
among the quarterbacks that are in the playoffs, here are the quarterbacks that have fewer playoff wins than Lamar. Green Bay, Jordan Love has 1. C.J. Stroud has 1. Sam Darnold has 0. Bo Nix is a rookie. That's 4. Jaden Daniels is a rookie. That's 5. Herbert has 0, 6. So 6 guys. So you're right. He's middle of the pack.
And Herbert only played 2 playoff games.
1.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 1 because he let the Jazz come back. I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
Yep.
So he only played 1 playoff game. So that's my point. With him having all of those accolades that he having 2 MVPs, possibly him is going to probably be between Josh Allen, Lamar, and Saquon for the MVP, but possibly going on his 3rd MVP and not to yet have a great playoff performance and yet to have a Super Bowl appearance. Like, the pressure's on him.
I think the Bills win this game, but I think Denver is interesting because they've got a defense that can rise to the occasion. Their quarterback's played much better and has got confidence. And Sean Payton is, I think, dangerous in this spot. He wins playoff games basically every year he's in it. And Sean McDermott has a tendency to get tight in some of these situations. So I'm picking Buffalo, and I think they'll win by more than a touchdown, but look out for Denver, I guess, is how I'm going to finish.
That's what I was going to say as well, especially if the weather plays a factor. I think Denver may squeak out a victory if it's going to be one of those snowy games, just because I like Sean Payton in this moment. I like what I love what the defense is able to do. So they're a defense that's not going to be able won't have to send pressure as much. They have a very dynamic front four, edge rushers that can get after the quarterback, to where you can have more eyes on Josh Allen, because with this style of quarterback, you don't want to be playing too much man to man because his mobility that he's able to present to a defense. So you want to have as many eyes on this quarterback as possible. So with Denver front four, when they front seven, with them breaking the team record last year, I feel like they can do enough to make to make Josh flustered in the pocket and force him to some ill-advised throws. And again, if that weather is a factor, what was our one about Maine early on in the season? What was the I guess, what did we say? I think it was around free agency. What was the main concern of the Buffalo Bills defense?
They were not good against the run. They were smaller up front.
So if this is a cold, well, we know it's going to be a cold game. But if the weather becomes to play a factor, happen to become a factor in this game, I think Denver may have the edge, man. That's just my take. So we'll keep.
You still don't have the total guts to pick them, though. You're saying
no, I don't. No, I don't. Yeah. I don't. I say maybe. I say if the weather has a factor in this game, you might want to keep a close eye out on Denver. But I'm going with the Bills as well to win this game. It won't be. I don't think it'll be like a blowout or anything like that. But I can see the Bills winning by 6-9 points for the most part.
Commanders and Bucks. Which team has the quarterback advantage in this game? Would you rather have Jaden Daniels or Baker Mayfield?
Baker Mayfield. Just with his experience being in the playoff, his veteran presence, like for me, I think that really goes a long way, because what Jaden is about to experience and really realize, like, playoff football is totally different from regular season football.
All right, so that's not BS. That's a real thing in your opinion.
That's a real thing. The lights.
So how is it different in your opinion?
Just because everybody understand, like, everything matters. Like, every single possession matters. Every decision that a coach makes matters. There is no tomorrow, like I just said. This team is going to be completely different next year. And why would you want to, put forth all your, good efforts, to put yourself in a position to waste it? So the lights are brighter, the air smells a little different. Like I said, the moments are different. Like I said, everything matters. Like that's the different feel of playoff football, and the intensity level is a whole lot different as well. As Sam Darnold saw last week against the Detroit Lions, that was a little taste of a playoff atmosphere in a playoff football game, which he never played in. So that can be something that he can take, in account for going forward playing against the Rams. So, but yeah, that playoff football and regular season football, that's a real thing. You can ask anybody that. Anybody.
So,
but I'm going to pick Mayfield.
So am I. And here's why I'm going to say that. And I want to get your feedback on it. So they played all the way back in week 1, these two teams in Tampa. I don't think there's a ton you can glean from that game because it was so early in the year. Tampa scored 37 points. They won the game 37-20. Daniels was under 200 yards. He He ran for 86 though, so he was their most explosive or most dynamic runner in the game. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, and McLaurin only had 2 catches for 17 yards. So they've obviously evolved and progressed a lot offensively. Daniels and Kingsbury's rapport and Ertz has become a bigger part of their offense, and they're now, I think, a team that they can win a shootout, I guess is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But my question to you is like, what about Todd Bowles as a defensive strategist? He's going to see this guy for a second time. And the first time he basically grounded him and made sure that Daniels really didn't beat him with his arm. They gave him runs. He ran it 16 times, but he didn't really do much. Their leading receiver in the game, Pat, was Austin Eckler. And then all the plays were dump offs basically to running backs. So, Todd and Jaden Daniels. So how do you think that chess match goes this time around?
Yeah, it's going to go the same way. Todd is not going to allow the big play to beat him. And he's going to force Jaden to check the football down once again, because he did the same thing against the Kansas City Chiefs when they played in the Super Bowl in 2021.
So he'll play the deep and basically say, if you want to beat us on these methodical drives where you dink and dunk the ball, go ahead.
Remember what I said about offensive coordinators. They're not patient enough. They're not. They're just not. They're going to they may dink and dunk for a period of time, but at some point they're gonna just say, fuck it. Just take a shot. Just throw it anyway. And then next thing you know, that's going to change the momentum in the ball.
Daniels has actually gone to Kingsbury during games and said, let me do that. That happened this year.
That's what I'm saying, though. And that's what Todd Bowles is going to force them to do again. Like, he's going to keep everything in front of him, not allow McLaurin and the rest of the guys to get behind him on the deep ball, and force those guys to hit the panic button at some point. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Tampa Bay, I'm speaking of, they just have to capitalize to really capture the momentum, because once you're able to do that, you're forcing teams to dunk the ball down, and then when they do take a shot, you intercept it. You just took all the morale out of them. It's like, what can we do now? You know what I mean? So if Todd Bowles and defense is able to do that, they should walk out of this game easy.
I don't know how easy it'll be, but I trust them more because obviously Mayfield was there last year and they blew out Philly. Also, the way that McMillan's come on in replace of Godwin, and Bucky Irving's been so good at running back. Since they lost to the 49ers at the midpoint of the season, when this turnaround happened, they've scored 30, 26, 28, 40, 26, 48, and 27 points. Pat, they haven't scored fewer than 26 points in any of those games.
I'm about to say they averaging about 29, 30 points.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So Washington, Dan Quinn's the defensive coach. He doesn't have the pieces that he wants there yet. Lattimore's basically had a bad hamstring ever since they made that trade. I think Tampa Bay is going to win, and I agree with you. I prefer Baker Mayfield in this matchup, but this will probably be the last year I say that, because I think Jaden Daniels is probably going to be a guy that wins the MVP or competes for it.
Jaden Daniels is going to be special. He's going to be special, man.
All right. My Steelers against the Ravens. This is the biggest point spread in the history of these two teams playing each other, by the way.
This is crazy.
It's never been this high. It's a 10 point.
Is it still 9.5 or is 10 now?
It's up to 10 most places.
Oh, wow.
The Steelers have owned Lamar. Now, not so much the last time they played, but by and large, they've had his number. Does Patrick Peterson think it will get in his head again Saturday night?
Do I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense or the Pittsburgh Steelers in totality will get in his head?
Just the, I guess both. Like, he's playing the Steelers. He's trying to exercise playoff demons.
Gotcha.
And here's the team that, of all the teams out there, this is the team that's given him the hardest time. So in addition to the actual personnel and scheme that they have, do you think that mental psychology of the game will get to Lamar too in this situation?
No, I don't think so. So. Lamar just seemed extremely focused, especially towards the latter part of this season. We always seen the laser focus, in him during games, especially in fourth quarters if his team is down and they need him to put that cape on. We've seen that a number of times. But this season, the last part of the latter part of this season, it just seemed like he really has flipped the switch. Like everything is really, really clicking for him. I don't know, is it because he has a much more efficient running game, or the second year being under Coach Monken's offense, of him really having a total control of the offense and the system. But I just feel like Lamar is on another level right now. I don't think he's really worried about what happened in the past, because the only thing that he can control right now is right now. You know what I mean?
Is it still a bad matchup for him though?
Not right now. Just because how leaky Pittsburgh offense is right now, man. I just feel like the offense is leaking way too much oil for them in order for them to put enough points up on the scoreboard to at least threaten the Baltimore Ravens. You know,
so it sounds like you're basically saying the Steelers offense, the failures of the Steelers offense affects the Steelers defense, is what it sounds like you're saying.
No, I won't necessarily say it affects the defense, but at the same time, your defense can't be out there all game.
That's what I mean when I say that.
Yeah. So okay. Your defense can't be out there all game already, defending a mobile quarterback, the most electrifying quarterback in the game that we all love to play and watch.
Plus Derrick Henry.
Plus Derrick Henry. So it just put that much more pressure on the defense to be, as A1 as they need to be in order to keep themselves in the game. Because as we saw as well, the defense even haven't been playing, lights out as they were in the first 75%, 3/4 of the season, 3/4 of the season of defense that we all were accustomed of seeing, TJ getting sacks, Dante and the guys getting turnovers and things like that. We haven't seen that in the last month of football. You know what I mean? So that's why I really believe that this is going to be a struggle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't see Lamar having any of those, Pittsburgh haunted, dreams or anything like that. I truly believe that is in his past. But then again, Pittsburgh is the team that have the best success against him. So I wouldn't be surprised as well if the Pittsburgh Steelers was to go in there, and turn their game around, because it also, if you go back and listen to those players' interviews like Aminka and Elliott, they talked about the miscommunications, the motionings and things like that. They know this football team on the defensive side of the ball. So they know exactly what they're going to get, when they're going to get it, how they're going to get it. So there shouldn't be no excuses on miscommunication, guys missing assignments, because this is an offense that you've seen for the last 6 times in the last 2 years. Well, 5 times. Well, 5 times in the last 2 years. You know what I mean? So there shouldn't be no excuses on, miss assignments and things like that. But the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, man, if they can't find a way to get their act together and get it out of first gear, and George Pickens be a part of the fucking team, excuse my language, because he's definitely, singling himself out as an individual, right now.
The Ravens put out a video talking about Lamar's cologne, and some guy in the Ravens locker room said that cologne smells soft, just like George Pickens. And the Ravens Twitter put that out. You know why? Because they want George to see it. They know that that's going to get in George's head, and he's probably going to be, right from the jump, trying to pick fights with people because he's pissed off that they called him a name. They're smart. They're already getting into psychological warfare with him.
Then there you go. Now you're playing against 10 guys, not 11, because we've seen, this is not me talking. This is not you talking. We all seen it. Him not running the routes, giving up on routes, walking off the field, snatching his helmet off, pointing out fans, wanting to fight. Man, let's just focus on the game. Like, we're in the playoffs right now. Like, we need your undivided attention and the best George Pickens that we need to move on to the next goddamn round, because playoff runs come, I won't say once in a lifetime, because I've only been 5 times in my 13-year career. and he's lucky enough to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a team that is regularly in the playoffs. But most guys don't have that opportunity. Most guys don't have, are blessed enough to be with teams that is constantly in the playoff week in and week out. Because I tell you right now, if you're not on the Pittsburgh Steelers next year, they're probably going to ship you off somewhere like Deontay Johnson. He went. Guess where he went? To the Carolina Panthers. It wasn't nothing like the Pittsburgh Steelers. They barely won 2 games while he was there.
Ace Claypool to Chicago, that didn't
You
work
know what
either.
I mean? So just things like that, man. You really have to understand what you have in front of you.
I agree, but I think some guys get it and other guys don't. And I just don't think a light bulb goes on now because it's the playoffs. I wish it did. I wish it would.
I wish it did too. Yeah.
I don't have really any faith in the Steelers winning this game either, even though the history says I should have more confidence in them. The thing that is just mind-boggling to me, that defense has so many stars. That defense has given up more points than any team in the first quarter this year. More than anybody. More than the Panthers, more than the Browns, more than the
All
Jets.
year, though? All year?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. I wouldn't have thought that.
And guess what the first quarter scores are of their last 5 playoff losses? Opponent 66, Steelers 0.
I was going to say, I remember it being 14-0 when we played the Bills in the first quarter.
And then it got to 21-0. So they've historically had bad starts in playoff games. They've had bad starts all year, including never having an opening drive touchdown the entire season. I feel horrible about it, Pat. And the other thing is the guy's had a great career, but I do think Russell Wilson is done. I don't think he'll be in the NFL next year. I don't think another team would take him because he's not going to want to play for like 10 or 15 million. He's not going to want to be Joe Flacco and be somebody's backup. He thinks he's better than that. And good for him. I mean, if that's how he feels, because he's played for almost 20 years and he's been, a great quarterback. But Pat, I mean, the way the season has ended, this is why Sean Payton moved on, in my opinion. That 2-minute drill against Cincinnati is still one of the worst
that was bad.
things I've ever seen.
That was very bad.
So, Chargers and Texans here. I've saved, I guess, the worst for last as far as the playoff matchups go. I have a crazy take. I think the Chargers are the team that's on the road this week that has the best chance of winning not 1 but 2 playoff games. So they're obviously favored against a Houston team that is here because they played in the AFC South. Now they've got Hunter and they've got Anderson. So that's really what they do defensively well. Stingley's a hell of a player too. So they've got 3 dudes on defense. And then, Stroud, because of the offensive line problems there, I just think has regressed big time.
Yeah.
And the offensive play calling has not been that good either, to be honest with you. Joe Mixon would be the first one to tell you about that because he's been pissed basically the whole year. So I think they'll win. And then I know they get matched up with the team that's won the last 2 Super Bowls. I don't think they're intimidated at all by the Chiefs. They got off to a crappy start the last time they played them, and then Herbert played his butt off in the second half of the game, and they almost came back and won. And a field goal at the end of the game by Kansas City's backup kicker needed to go in for the Chiefs to beat them and win the division.
That was the doink. Was that the doink?
Yeah,
game?
That was the doinker. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, based on all the rust the Chiefs are going to have too, where they're going to have basically gone 3 weeks without playing, I think LA could go. LA's going to go in there and give them a game is my prediction.
Yeah, I can see that happening just because of the rest that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be on.
And you've been saying someone in that division is going to come on and wrestle this thing away from them. The Chargers or the Broncos, one of those teams is going to usurp power and take their throne and take their crown. Jim Harbaugh went to an NFC championship his first year in San Francisco, Pat. You know that.
Wait, so is it safe to say all the takes that I have said this year about all the teams, the Rams, and the new sheriff in town, it's pretty much hitting on, right?
Well, you've brainwashed me, I guess, is the bigger story from doing the show with you. I mean, I'll give you credit for that.
No, man, I really do think that it's going to be a new sheriff in town, man. And I'm right there with you, man. Because for most guys, it's going to be 26 days off. Because most starters didn't play in the last game against the Broncos. So that's 26 days off for the most part. So I think the Chargers, if they do so happen, I'm picking them to get past the Houston Texans as well. If they so happen to get past the Houston Texans, I believe they can go in Arrowhead and really give the Kansas City Chiefs all that they can handle. They have a coach that not only understands clock management and game management, but he understands what it takes to win in playoff games. And like you said, he went to the NFC Championship his first year, losing to the Giants, I believe.
Yep.
Yes, if I'm not mistaken, losing to the Giants. I think my guy.
I think if you were returning punts that day, they would have won the game.
I just want to say my guy fumbled 2 punt returns, man. Pretty much kept him out of the Super Bowl that year. Williams. Yep. So I really have a lot of faith in Jim Harbaugh and the Los Angeles Chargers if they so happen to make it to the second round and have to go to Arrowhead and face off with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey, Herbert, man, I know you don't have the greatest weapons, but for years, he's been anointed as this guy that has all of the abilities and the talents to be a great quarterback. And now he has a coach.
This can be his Joe Burrow type moment right now.
There you go. That's a great analogy.
Yeah,
because when that playoff run started for Cincinnati, they played the Raiders at home. They were pretty much expected to win that game. But then in Buffalo and then in Kansas City, they weren't picked to win either one of those games. They did not have a great regular season. I think they won 10 games that year. And he had ice water in his veins during that playoff run. Now, he's had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And, Justin Herbert's got Brad McConkey and Quentin Johnston. There's not exactly apples to apples there, but I think Jim Harbaugh's a better coach than Zach Taylor. And I think the Chargers defense is better than the defense 100%. That Burrow
had. 100%.
So, well, either way, it's going to be a blast. We can't wait for it. This is a podcast where it's real talk. We don't get too granular with X's and O's. Once in a while, Pat swears, which makes it a little bit more interesting. But it's just a guy that loves football and an ex-NFL great talking about games in plain English for people. And we hope that you enjoy it. We're here before and after every NFL week. You can listen and subscribe to First and Pod. It's on the Odyssey app. It's on every major podcast platform. So go get it, subscribe, rate, review. We'll be back after these playoff games. Stay tuned. Look for new editions, new episodes of First and Pod to drop in your podcast feed soon. Thanks for listening.